Yeah, it's the Olympics are always an interesting topic, and it's obviously it's great that you brought that up because cricket is perhaps one of the oldest sports to not be in the game. I think alongside squash, but we know that cricket is $1 billion sport.
Mhm.
Squash isn't. So what is the issue there, in your opinion, from your understanding? How much, however much you're willing to talk about that, of course, but um, cricket in the Olympics, like you said, it means so much to what can potentially happen with funding. I had a chat with Veronica Vasquez, the captain of the Argentinian women's team, and she said the exact same thing. If we had the
Mm.
Olympics, that's it. We can make this a legitimate sport here in
Mm.
Argentina. So, depending on how much you want to talk about it, but what are the, I guess, issues that sort of hinder the process of enabling cricket to get into the Olympics?
Well, there's a lot of chat about it needing to be the pinnacle of the sport and which format it would be and how many teams it had or could have in the events. And I guess looking at those challenges, they're not insurmountable. The chances would be it'd probably be quite a small final event at the Olympics, probably 8 men's, 8 women's, and T20. People also ask about facilities, and you wouldn't have enough grounds, and especially in these places that don't have cricket. It's like, well, if the Asian Games can build stadiums for cricket in China, in Korea, and soon in China again, but in a different city, we can do the same thing with drop-in technology, with a type of hybrid pitch that we see in Vanuatu that doesn't have a permanent clay center. It has an artificial underneath with long fake grass with the clay on top that you roll that you can reuse. There are a lot of opportunities there. So anyone that tries to use that as a reason, that's
Yeah.
really not an answer, because we can play T20 internationals on synthetic at the moment. And if that is what we would need to do to get the game in the Olympics, honestly, it's worth it. The two big blockers have always been India and England. England was always concerned that 1 out of 4 summers messed up with Olympics being the middle of when their main time was, but they've changed their mind in the last 3 years. They've come out in support of the Olympics. And then the BCCI in India have had issues with the Indian Olympic Committee and the fact that this team would be controlled by the Olympic Committee rather than the BCCI. And they also had an issue with WADA's everywhere, anytime location around testing, which has now been ticked off as well. So it's really that last seat at the table, India's support, and it's gone a little bit quiet on the Olympics of late. The people within the ICCC, it's still moving along, but it's been, the silence has been somewhat deafening in that with the 2028 Olympics, which is when we are hoping it'll be in LA, and LA has cricket fields. So again, the facilities is not the issue. They should be announcing the sports. I think it is in 2021, but look, as we know at the moment, with an Olympics being postponed, who knows whether they're going to start lining up the sports for future Olympics. But I just hope the right people are having those right conversations, because we talk about it a lot of time, and you said you haven't listened enough, so it's good that I'm not repeating it, that you're already here. But basically, getting the cricket in the Olympics just solves so many problems, but it creates so many opportunities in that there's this funding that we're talking about, and potentially getting an egalitarian funding model from the ICC. The money from these governments for Olympic sports, it's more or less free money if we look at the way that the cricket has been funded in the past. Cricket trying to make its way in these countries, trying to find commercial entities, commercial partners, and that's only going to get harder and harder, linking with governments that are probably all going through austerity measures now anyway. But to be able to tap into a national sporting budget, albeit they may be reducing with what's happening in the world, that's just something that the ICC should see. Well, it's really not doing our job for us, but just complementing and increasing the potential funding that maybe we'd be talking less about the ICC funding if we had a lot of that coming in from these governments. So unfortunately, it sounds like it's been from a couple of countries at the top table, but geez, I'm really hoping. I occasionally write down these little dates and thinking about where I'd like to see World Cups and T20 World Cups, and there's another opportunity of having World Cups and Associate Nations. But the idea of having Olympic cricket is one that really excites me, and something that could just be such an amazing thing for the game.